There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment, and here we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to another episode of Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, but you should know that by now. If you don't, well, you do now. In any event, we've got a great show for you today. We've got a remarkable story of a young person, 9 years old, who was put on an airplane from communist Poland at the time and was delivered to the United States. And she grew up here, and then she worked at the United Nations and with the United Nations for, I don't know, 31 years. How about that? And that was a long time. And she traveled all over the world from a little girl at 9 years old that was in communist Poland, didn't know any English when she got here. And what they did, and we'll talk to her about this as well. What they did is they put a name tag on her and then said, "This is Christine Sadry," and I hope somebody at the other end knows who she is and picks her up, because they would never do that today, but in those days they did. So, Christine, welcome to the show. How are you? It's such a great pleasure for me to interview you today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and to talk with you. I am good. How are you?
I'm awesome, thank you. I don't know if you've heard, but I have this show. It's called Positive Talk, and I'm supposed to be awesome all the time. So whether I am or not is a story for another day, but today I'm awesome, and I got to tell you. And I really love history, and I love talking to people who have experienced history in a very unique and in your case, as it turns out, positive way. Wasn't always that way, but it happened that way. And now you have a book out, and it's called 13 Lost Years, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling to the world serving the United Nations. It is such a pleasure to have you here. And first of all, I guess, did I tell the story correctly when you were 9 and they put you on an airplane? And then who was it that met you here in the United States, and where was that?
Well, actually, for a while when I arrived in the United States, no one was there waiting for me. So it was supposed to be my adopted father. But I guess, New York traffic near JFK was bad, and I arrived alone in a foreign country, speaking no language, knowing no one. That was it. That was very scary in the beginning. I didn't know what happened. What will happen to me?
I can't imagine what it would be like, especially when you're 9. And all this stuff I bet you it was the first time you flew on an airplane, huh?
It was the first time out of my village.
So not only had you not flown in an airplane, it was the first time you've gotten a car and drove out of your village to take you to the airport.
Exactly. Because I lived in a small town in Poland, near the northeast corner of Poland, very cold by the Russian border. And so it was a farm. We had some land. We grew potatoes, wheat, vegetables, had all kinds of animals. So I've never been outside of my village before that.
Has anybody ever told you you may have been the bravest 9-year-old girl I've ever met?
Not recently, no. But the thing is, after my mother's death, when I was 5 and my sisters were taken by aunts and uncles, I was with my grandmother, just the two of us on the farm. And so she always talked about America, aside from, how grandmothers, she would tell me different stories about life. And I was a very inquisitive child. And every now and then she would talk about America. So I had this vision, this idea that that America was something so great. And if you're behind a communist country, it was the greatest world country for you.
I got to ask you because in Poland where you were on a farm, so you grew your own crops and ate from the garden and that kind of stuff. What was it like for you? Do you remember the first time when you were here that you walked into a grocery store?
Actually, that I don't remember. I remember my first day at school, but
Uh-huh.
but I think I was so shocked. I don't remember my first day in a grocery store at all.
Well, it can be overwhelming, and because it's so different how the abundance of the United States versus what you had to deal with in Poland. Now, your step parents, were they related to you at all, or how did your grandmother find them?
I think my aunt in Oletsko, she had known somehow the family or his nieces or someone in that family, and they had must have told them that our mother died, our father abandoned us, and here are these four little girls without parents. And the couple, the American couple that adopted me, the father had family in Poland, and my aunt must have told him, and they had no children. So I guess it was just a good pairing that they had thought.
And I understand that also through your growing up years, that there were issues with the step parents and all that kind of stuff. So um, we'll kind of bypass that because that's not germane to our discussion. But how old were you when you left your home there, and did you go to college? How did that work?
I left at 19, but I had to put myself actually through high school. I was going to West Catholic Girls, and my adopted parents said when I was going into the sophomore year, they said, we don't want to pay for it. And I thought the school was very good and I was getting a good education. So I decided to start looking for a job. And at 15, not many places will hire you. So I went into the Philadelphia Inquirer and I found a place that I could work. I was very tall, so I got a little bit of work as a model, as well as handing out American Express cards, applications. And for that, I received a couple dollars. So by doing that, I was able to put myself through high school. And then I figured since they didn't pay for my high school and I had to do that, they were not going to pay for college. So West Catholic Girls had this courses for your junior and senior year where you work half a day and you go to school half a day. And you take, bookkeeping, steno, typing, all the clerical admin education that you can get. And so there I was able to work in like a small packing, like a small Amazon, on a scale, where I worked as a receptionist there and went to school. And that's how I put myself through high school. But I did not go to college. I just didn't think that, with so many things going on in my life and I had to get myself, mentally together, that I would just focus on education. And I did well in high school to the point where I graduated as an honor student, and the government sent me a notice for an interview when I was 18, and I went and I got the job in the Social Security Administration on Vine Street.
Oh, very cool. By the way, for those of you who don't know, back in the day, they would do things like teach you how to type and work a regular
So
typewriter. Yeah, and they taught you steno, which is a stenography, which is a shorthand of sorts that I don't even think they use today, do they?
they have AI today.
Yeah. So all of that went by the wayside because there used to be I saw somebody doing it one time and they would be like they were squiggling on a piece of paper, and that was each squiggle had a different value to it or a different letter to it, and so that way you could keep up with somebody who was talking rather than trying to do it longhand, you could do it short. Am I correct in saying that?
You are correct. That is it.
And I'm pretty sure that none of that even exists anymore.
I
But
don't think so.
but it was an interesting time for you. And so you went to work at the Social Security Department. How in the world did you end up at the United Nations?
Well, after many years, I received a phone call from Chicago from a detective, and he said, I am searching for you on behalf of your sister in Poland. Are you so and so?" But I was very cautious because prior to that, when I turned 18, I wrote a letter and it was intercepted by someone pretending to be my family, trying to get money out of me. So when I received that call from Chicago at the age of 22, 13 years later, of course, from the time I arrived, I said, no, I will not write to them. You tell these people, if they are my family, to write to me. And it has to be in English, because by then I didn't speak Polish. I didn't remember it. I never used it again. And I said, if I think they're my family, I will write to them. So about 8 months later or so, I received a letter from Poland written in English from my sister Elizabeth. "Dear Chris, I am your sister Elizabeth. I've been searching for you all my life. We have never given up finding you. I am the oldest." And of course, when I start reading it, I felt, yes, this is my family, because I just cried. My heart went out to know that we from childhood, I missed my family, my sisters so much, and I haven't seen them. I haven't heard a word from them. It was like a death that I had to go through because I was never able to contact them. And so after that, I invited my first sister, Teresa, to come to America because I couldn't get away quickly enough. And she came, and I had to gather all my papers, my naturalization papers. And of course, when I left my adopted family, they didn't give me any documents. I had to search the courthouses, call them, try to remember when I had the naturalization, when did I become a citizen, and put all my documents together. And then I got my passport, and my sister Teresa said, well, to help you to get to communist Poland, I know someone who's coming to the General Assembly at the United Nations, and maybe he can help you get a visa to go to Poland. And I said, of course, I would be more happy to do that any way I can. So at that time, I went to the United Nations to meet with this person to help me get a visa to go to Poland. And I just happened to mention, this must be an amazing place to work at. All these different cultures or languages, countries. And so he said, why don't you apply? And I said, no, because who am I? No one's going to, I didn't have a college degree. He said, look, apply for an admin position, for secretarial, for one of those. So once he convinced me, I did that. I applied at the United Nations. And about a year later, I went in for tests. So I had to take all the different clerical tests and IQ tests and all these things. And then later I was hired by the United Nations to work on the International Conference on Women that was held in Denmark. And of course, I resigned from the Social Security Administration after working there for 6 years.
Well, and I got to ask you what it was like when you and your older sister met for the first time. But before we go there, I got to ask you, because you were in the United Nations and you went all over the world, have you ever been to Kenya?
No.
Well, you have now. So Samuel, he's from Kenya, and he and his whole village listen to our show because they love what we do. He's got a nonprofit organization. He feeds children, and now he's working to develop schools for them in Kenya. So Samuel is one of our favorite people, and so you haven't been to Kenya, but now you have. How about that?
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Wonderful. I've been to Sierra Leone. I've been to the Democratic Republic of Congo, Angola, Mozambique, South Africa. and I've always wanted to go to Kenya.
Well, now you've been there in a kind of sort of way. So, okay. But anyway, we're talking with Christine Sadry. She has worked for 31 years at the UN. She's got a book out, which we are going to talk about quite a little bit. It's called 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling the world serving the United Nations. And we need to take a quick break. And when we come back, we are going to talk more with her. And this is just a short commercial. It's just 29 seconds. So we'll be right back. Stay right where you are, everybody. By the way, if you want to go to our website, you can do that, which is ChristineSadry.com. And we'll spell it out for you when we come back from the break. So we will be right back. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. After the longest night, the sun rose again. It painted the sky with colors no one had seen before. That's how life works. Darkness never lasts forever. No matter how long the night feels, your sunrise will come. Hold on. Light always finds its way back. You're listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope live. And welcome back to the show, everybody. And we are talking with Christine Sadry. That's Sadry. And you can go to her website, which is ChristineSadry.com. You can see the picture of her book and a beautiful picture of her as a 9-year-old little girl. And it's great for you to be here. And it's just amazing to me. Isn't it amazing to you? Now, so far, if you're just tuning in, let me refresh you. Okay. You left communist Poland when you were 9. You came to the United States to be with your adopted parents who knew people from Poland, but they were not either fiscally able and stuff. So you ended up from the time that you were 15 years old, putting yourself through school and then going to clerical school. And then you got a job for the Social Security Administration. And then you went to the United Nations because your sister was here from Poland and you wanted to get a visa. And the guy thought so much of you that he wanted you to apply to be in the United Nations. And it's a magical life, I do have to say. I got to ask you, though, the first time you saw your sister, what went through your mind?
Just tears, just joy and happiness to be reunited, to have my family. But also, I will say, it was like a duality because here I was for 13 years now, a lone child, trying to understand what's going on in the world and just being by yourself, not having that many friends, having an awkward having an accent and just trying to get along. And all of a sudden you have family that love you, that look like you, to see them. It was like, oh my God, they have the same eyes. We look the same. It was just the most beautiful feeling that you could ever imagine, to be together with your family that you have not seen for 13 years since you were a child, 9 years old. It was amazing.
And I'm sure your sister cried as many tears as you did.
Absolutely. We really cried. Truly, all of us.
So you were able to get your visa at the United Nations, and then you went to Poland to meet your entire family. That must have been one party.
Well, it's something that you can't even imagine because I didn't know how to react. There's so many emotions, there's so much uncertainty, there's so much just overwhelming feelings that you have that I thought to myself, if I try to understand this, I will lose my mind. So I had to come up with a philosophy, an idea. How would I go live this moment? And I thought, okay, in this moment, I will just let it happen, let it be. If I want to cry, I can cry. If I want to laugh, I give myself permission to feel every moment. And there was one point when I was visiting in my village, a neighbor that loved me that I used to visit all the time. And she saw me at her door because I sneaked out of my house and went over like there, like 5 in the morning, 5:30. And her daughter was my best friend. And she saw me in the door and she says, Krisha, Krisha, Krisha. That's my Polish way of saying it. And so I'm here and she's making kielbasi and we're having this, like time stopped. We're having this beautiful conversation, in my bad Polish back then. And then in the back, I hear an American popular song. And at that very moment, my two worlds were so different and they crossed paths. And it was like, oh my God, this is beyond belief what is going on in my mind.
Do you by chance remember what that song was?
No, it was just a popular song that I remember listening when I was alone, in the 70s, something, but it just was like, I was like, the two worlds connected. They were so different. They were different worlds, but yet here I am experiencing both of them.
And I gotta tell you, Christine, one of the songs that I grew up with in the 60s and 70s was a song by Paul McCartney. And and the name of the song is What You Did When You Went to See Your Family, because you could have gotten all caught up in it and the stress of it all and stuff, but you just let it be.
Let it be. I thought you were going to say that. Yes, I just let it be. Let it happen. That's it.
And that is Paul's mother, Mary, who died at 14, came to him in a dream. And he was all concerned about stuff with the Beatles and lawyers and all that stuff. And she said, Paul, just let it be.
Oh my God.
So I'm glad that you made reference to that, because that is, if you're going to go into a stressful situation like that and you don't know the outcome's going to be, just let it be, let it happen.
Yeah.
And it turned out really, really good for you. How long did you stay in Poland that trip?
About a month.
Oh, wow. They were sad when you had to go home, weren't they?
It's like you have to go home, but it's a very mixed feeling. It's confusion. It's going back to your real reality and leaving. It was so much. It was just so much going on in my mind and my heart and my soul. It was a lot, but it was. I spent enough time to feel it again. To feel that family.
Did Poland change a lot in that 13-year period?
It was still communist, because not until 89. I was there in 78. I went there. So 77, 78. So when I got on the plane and arrived there, when the plane landed there, I saw military guys with guns pointed at us. And I was, okay, now I know where I'm back. So there was like all of them surrounding the plane with guns for whatever reason. And once I arrived, they wanted me to report. I had to report for like a debriefing or whatever in a Polish police station, And so I felt quite uncomfortable, but still enjoyed my every moment there.
Anybody ever tell you you're one tough cookie?
Listen, I drove a tank. I got held up at gunpoint by a tram. I got blessed by a pope. It's all in the book.
And the name of the book is 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling the world, serving the United Nations, driving a tank, and getting to meet and be blessed by
Pope John
Pope.
Paul II, yes, at the United Nations General Assembly.
And I got to ask you, since you spent 31 years at the United Nations, you must have seen some of the most amazing people that have walked the planet during that time. that
Yes.
that wander through the halls.
I absolutely have. And, during the General Assembly special session, there'll be the presidents and the ministers coming, uh, ambassadors. It was an amazing time. I was so blessed and so privileged to be working there. I cannot express enough.
And so you worked there from the mid seven or late
From
70s, early.
79 to 2010.
That is one of the most consequential periods of time in history that we've ever been through.
Yes.
And all the way from when you went there in 79, there were no cell phones. And this is a history lesson for you guys. There were no cell phones. There were cassette tape players and 8-track tape. Nobody even knows what an 8-track tape player is. But you had the phones all had cords, and you um, um, had to go answer the phone, and you couldn't take the cord. So wireless phones didn't even exist yet. Computers didn't exist yet.
Exactly.
The internet didn't exist yet. All of those things. So it would have been way different. And then in those days, the stenography was still a thing, probably
It,
because
yes. And also, you didn't have copies. You had to make carbon copies. I don't know if you remember those.
yes,
And
the
and then there was no faxes. There was what do you call? Oh, I can't even think of it. But anyway, I mean, everything was primitive.
teletype.
Teletype, yes.
It's
Telegraph.
amazing that I can recall that out of the distant. I don't think I ever used a teletype, but that was before fax machines,
Yeah.
and that's how you would communicate something. Is you would type it in, and then you would send it to them
To the
somehow.
office. Yeah, a telegraph, and it would be said like a telegraph. Yeah, that's it.
And here's another thing that I had totally forgotten. That when you're typing something, and in those days the typewriter was, I'm not even sure you had electric typewriters yet.
At the UN, we did.
And so, but if you wanted a copy of something, you would put the paper in, and you would put a carbon between the papers, and then you would type out what you wanted to type, and then that's how you created a copy of something. Isn't that right?
Yes, I'm bringing back memories.
You are. So that was the only way to get it done. And I imagine that in your world, when the fax machine, which was the first thing that would be office applicable, when that showed up, that was like magic.
Oh, yes. I mean, and a computer. I remember we had lessons in learning how to work the computer, Control Alt Delete, and all those little codes, and everything. It
Yeah,
was
and by the way, there was something for this is another history lesson, kids. For some of you that are a little bit younger, before there was Windows, there was something called DOS. And DOS is what you used to type things in, like Alt Delete and cancel. I know that you would use DOS to do that kind of stuff before Mr. Gates and developed Windows and that kind of stuff.
yeah.
So hey, you know what? I have an idea.
Yes.
You should write a book about all the things that you've learned and stuff, all the things you've gone through. Wait a minute. Oh, hold on. I think she already did. It's 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling the world, serving the United Nations. Christine Sadry is our guest. And I got to tell you, and I'm having more fun going down memory lane than a human is allowed to.
I'm so glad. Oh, it is. I mean, all these things, God, that one goes through in their life. But it's a good memory.
And it changed so much.
It's a
And I imagine that your time at the UN really changed your life to a great degree.
Oh, absolutely. And also, not only that, but I met my husband in Africa, in Mozambique. And, I wasn't looking to meet anyone. I wasn't, I loved working. I loved working in the field. In Angola, I was, as an electro observer, going to villages, mapping. There was no GPS, so you had to map out the distance to different villages, how to get there. You get to a ant hill, you take a right, a banana tree, you take a left, 4 kilometers down, and that's what I did for a month. And I loved being out there. I was in Sarima, Angola, and with me and my colleague, we did the recce's and going to different places, doing a count, a quick count during the elections. So it was just so much going on. I mean, and when I ended up in Mozambique, I happened to go to a party, just a regular UN party. There was the one woman's birthday. She was a civilian police officer from Ireland. She had malaria, so we all got together. And at that time, my husband that I met, he was the Assistant Secretary General of the mission. He was the deputy head, and everyone was saying hello, good evening, sir. So I thought, it would be impolite for me, not to say hello, how are you, or something. So I did go over and, I said, hello, how are you, sir? And he looked at my shoes and he said, you have ugly shoes. And here I am looking great, black top, gorgeous black pants, Mary Jane black shoes, looking fabulous. I was taken aback. I thought, Well, I said, well, you have bad taste. I said, no, your shoes are ugly. So we get into this crazy, I'm thinking, oh my God, this man is Assistant Secretary General. He's going to fire me. Here I am arguing about my shoes. So after a few moments, I excused myself. I thought, let me get away from this moment. And I went and I sat down in another room on a poof, And about 10 minutes later, he comes over very politely and says, may I sit next to you? Can we talk? I said, sure. And we had this amazing conversations. He was funny, intelligent, kind, and from that on, we were together 30 years.
He was a funny, intelligent, kind dude with bad taste because he didn't like your shoes. Can you imagine? So we need to take our halftime break, and we're talking with Christine Sadry, and when we come back, it's like all the things that happened for you in your life, including your marriage, that never would have happened had you stayed with your grandma when you were 9 years old and stayed in Poland. But we'll be right back after this quick message. Stay with us, everybody.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Hey, while we're on break, here's something to remember. Life is not always easy. We all face challenges that weigh us down, but even on the heaviest days, positivity can still be within reach. One story, one kind word can shift the entire course of your day and everyone around you. That's why we're here, to remind you that you're not alone and that hope is always possible. And now we're coming back, so thank you for listening to Positive Talk Radio. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And we are here with Christine Sadry. And I got to tell you, has anybody ever told you you've had a magical life?
No.
Okay, Christine, you've had a magical life. Now you have.
I have, yes.
Because I'm thinking about, your whole life and meeting the Pope. You're going to have to tell me that story. And also other heads of state. And by the way, I got to ask you, and you probably won't tell me, but I got to ask you anyway. You were a very pretty girl when you were working at the United Nations. You're a very pretty woman now. Did any of the heads of state, big shot people make a pass at you?
You
don't have to answer that if you don't want to. I get it.
No, I mean, just it was very polite, diplomatic, nothing over, they were all very polite, I would say.
That's very politically correct of you, my dear, and congratulations for that. Because anyway, but in your 31 years outside of meeting the Pope and having him bless you, what were some of your favorite memories of those days in the United Nations? Besides, meeting your husband is a pretty big deal. So besides meeting the Pope and meeting your husband, which I assume that probably you liked your husband better than the Pope, but that I don't know. But
Tough.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. I get it. But what were some of your favorite memories that you have going back to those days?
Well, I will say that one of my favorite or just exciting memory is learning how to drive a tank in the Croatia, in the former Yugoslavia. I was there working with the UN in the General Services Office, and we had an R&R because it's stressful, and we had the NATO and going to Sarajevo and different things, so much going on. And during one of our R&R, we were behind the Zagreb airport, and Major Hogan, who was in charge of he was from the Royal British Army. During our R&R, he said, "Who would like to learn how to drive a tank?" Of course, I said, "Me." A few guys, learn how to drive. And then in the end, I said, "Sure." So he showed me, I got in the tank. He said, "This is, the wheel is how you move the gas, And so I was alone in the tank, and I drove that thing up and down the hills behind the airport for like 30 minutes. I was like, this is so cool. I had one moment of driving towards the plane where the airport really is, because we were behind, and I thought, don't do it. They will arrest you. They can't shoot you because you're in a tank, but you can eventually get in trouble. So I was like, after 30 minutes, I turned around and I parked the tank and I got out. One of my very memorable moments was I assisted as a admin assistant to the Deputy Secretary General of Peacekeeping, who was going to Sarajevo, and I was going to be like one of his assistants, and I was on the helicopter with him going from Zagreb to Sarajevo. And we were in this helicopter, and it was open, and there were two soldiers. They were facing each other with guns, not facing each other, but one to the one door, one to the other, as we were flying, because they would send out flares in case that the enemy would want to bomb the helicopter. So sitting in an open helicopter with two gunners sitting there facing sort of across from each other, waiting to shoot, and they would be shooting off flares the whole time. So that was like unbelievable. I thought that was, such an experience to have. There were a lot of military NATO soldiers that met the Deputy Secretary General. So it was such an exciting time. Also, I spent some time in Sarajevo. I stayed in a place that was a hotel that had this huge bomb, like a hole in the ground in the building, but it wasn't falling off. But it was just interesting, and you could see at night where the hill in Sarajevo is, where they were shooting at people, at night. So you could see little lights coming up. So that was just very memorable. Also, I would say crossing the Congo River in the Democratic Republic of Congo when I was there. A friend of mine, Kelly, she's like, let's go cross the Congo River, and there's a little like a boutique and manicure, whatever. So she found someone who was manning a local barge, and we crossed the mighty Congo on a barge. And that was like, because I read a book about it, I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so cool to be crossing the mighty Congo. You read about it, but you never know that you will do it.
Did you even stop to think about there could be crocodiles in that there water, or there's snakes on everywhere and stuff? Did that even cross your mind?
No. I mean, when you're 9 years old and you come to a foreign country and you go, what am I going to be afraid of, a snake or a crocodile?
Like I said, you are one tough lady. I gotta tell you. And so throughout your courage and your time and all the things that you've done, somebody somewhere put the idea in your head. Christine, you've got an amazing story. You need to write a book. How did you receive that? Was that something that you willingly did, or did it take a little convincing?
Well, I started writing little notes when things were really strange happening to me, or things that as a child that I never expected. And I thought to myself, especially with my adopted parents, the hardships I went through, I thought, this is unbelievable. I'll never remember these things. So I had like a little steno pad, and I would just write down like my thoughts or some things that really, really moved me. But I never thought much about it. And then every now and then I'm like, maybe, because life kept happening, more things kept happening. They wouldn't stop. I don't know whether I invited it in, but it's just things in my life kept happening. So then I just wrote at one point, maybe like 20, 30 pages. And I thought, I don't know. It'd be so much. There's just, do I want to do this? And like more likely not. But at one point, my sister Ella, she had a daughter, Eva. And I thought, let me send it to her daughter. She's lived through my absence and all our traumas and everything, especially as a family. And I sent it to her. And she read it and she's like, Auntie, you must write a book. This is amazing. Oh my God, I cried. I laughed. You have to do this. I'm like, oh, maybe. So that went on for about 15 years, and I would just write a little bit more. I said, listen, Eva, you maybe once a month call me and like push me to write more, and I'll send you. So it was just a long process. I never thought I would do it, but then like things kept appearing in my life that sort of made me finish writing it. And yeah, it was just, and then I thought to myself, with this crazy life, I better write it. If not, God will make me come back, relive this life, and then, and I thought, I'm not coming back.
No, when you're done, you're done. You've had it. You're not. You don't want to do that again. And but so you got to tell me. I've got just a couple of moments before our break. Tell me about your visit with the Pope.
Okay. Well, I was working at the United Nations. I was only working there 6 months. This was in '79. And the Pope was just elected. The first Polish non-Italian Pope was elected. And his first place that it was told he was coming to the United Nations to address the staff of the UN and to speak at the General Assembly. And I was working on the International Conference on Women in another building. I mean, I would have loved to see the Pope. Oh my God, we were all excited, but we're in another building. It'll never happen. So I talked to my friend Shirley Toms, and our boss, Byron, used to work in protocol. So she said, I'm going to speak to Byron. That's a great idea. Maybe he has contacts and he can get us some tickets. So Monday morning, when the Pope arrived, my friend Shirley called me. She says, look, we have 23 staff, but only 10 tickets. She says, and they're going to draw straws for it. And she says, with your life, you have no luck, girl. So you come in the morning and I'll give you a ticket. So I walk over and she gives me the ticket and I hide it. And then I go off to the UN and I get to, it was quite early. I was by the General Assembly doors. They were closed and I was afraid of, will they fire me if I don't go back to work? But I saw all these people waiting to get in there. So I never went back to work. I just sat there waiting till they opened the doors. They opened the doors. I sat in the 10th row in the middle aisle and I thought to myself, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Me from a little village, Krasne in Poland. Here I am in one of the greatest hall, the General Assembly. And here is the Polish Pope ever. And he's speaking. So the Polish Pope Pope John Paul II goes up on the podium and he's speaking. And I am totally mesmerized. I'm like beyond. And at one moment, a woman with a child walks up there and he takes a moment and he blesses the child. She goes back and I'm still sitting and I'm like so grateful to be here. And I feel my body lifting and I'm thinking, just lifting, and I hear an echo saying, excuse me, because I was sitting in the middle row. And I finally realized that it's me that's saying this. And I'm getting out of my seat. And I watch myself walking towards the podium. And there's 2,000 people sitting, directors, ambassadors, ministers. And I'm thinking, oh my God, please God, let me sit down. Please God, they'll fire me, they'll shoot me. And I'm watching my feet moving. God did not listen. And I'm thinking, please God, this is so embarrassing. Please. And my feet are moving towards the podium. And I get to the podium and I just stand there like a lump of, sugar, just stood there. So the security comes over and grabs my hand and says, go sit down. I couldn't talk. I couldn't move. And then some part of the entourage of the Pope comes over, grabs my other hand saying, stay there. So I have these two men grabbing my hands from opposite side. So both of them got frustrated and left me. And I'm standing there still talking to God. God, let me sit down, please. God did not listen. And out of nowhere, my hands start going up. And I thought, oh no, how embarrassing. There's 2,000 people behind me. There's my staff, ambassadors, and they keep going up. And and I'm looking at them. I'm thinking, where are they going? What is going on in my head? And then I'm standing there and I feel foolish and I feel but I'm just standing there. And at that very moment, the Pope turns around and extends his arms like that to me. And we're both standing looking at each other. The security comes, removes the rope from around the podium, and I go over, and the Pope gives me his hand. I kiss his ring, and he gives me the blessing, the papal blessing. And that's what happened.
Did you not think that when you were in the middle of writing your book, you had to know that was kind of like a really big thing to do, is to write the book because for those of you that don't remember, the first Polish Pope was a big deal back when it happened because he was the first non-Italian Pope, I think, wasn't he?
Yes, first non-Italian.
And it was an international news headline when he was elected Pope, just like we now have an American who's a Pope.
Yes.
But it was a very unusual thing. Yeah. And so congratulations. That is a funny story.
People ask me, why didn't you tell us? I would never have done it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how my feet moved. I don't know anything, why my hands went up. But it was a moment that I will never forget. The next day I saw how he moved people, how millions, and I thought, oh my God, he just blessed me yesterday. It was incredible.
And that is something that fortunately you'll remember your entire life.
Yes.
We're talking to Kristine Sadry. She's written the book, of course, which is called 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling the world, serving the United States, and including being blessed by the Pope. Go to KristineSadry.com. We need to take a really quick last break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more to her about some of the things that she's done and what she's doing now. We'll be right back. Here's another point to ponder by Positive Talk Radio. In a dark room, a single candle was lit. That tiny flame chased away the shadows, filling the space with hope. Your courage, your kindness, and your light may seem small at times, but it can change someone's entire world. Never underestimate the power you already carry inside. Even the smallest flame can ignite a fire that transforms lives. You are listening to Positive Talk Radio, where stories of hope come alive. And welcome back to the show, everybody. Christina, you having a good time?
I am having a fabulous time.
I'm so glad. So you left the United Nations 15 years ago now. What are you doing these days?
Well, since I have written the book, I've been doing a lot of, promoting, doing Barnes and Noble, of course, traveling to visit my family in Poland. I have friends in New York that I was just there about 2 weeks ago. And, getting together with family. So it's just spending some nice time.
I imagine that you have friends all over the world.
Yes.
That's got to be fun because I got to ask you this, because when you do like what you've done and you've traveled the world, you've gone to many, many different countries, you've seen many, many different cultures, but at the end of the day, we're all connected. We're all people. We're all human beings. We all have got the same needs, the same wants, the same loves, and the same kindness that we can have. So,
and hope and dreams.
And hope and dreams. That is so. From your perspective, I hope that you still have hope for us as a human species.
I do. I do. I am, my glass is always half full, always. And as you can imagine.
Oh, yes.
So no, of course I have hope for humanity. The pendulum swings, it always swings, things never stay the same. And I think, people at the core are good, loving, kind people. And I think that will always stay, and we'll try to do better. So of course there's so many things. Also, we have now AI, which is something that can be for such benefit, for medical, for assistance, for so many things. So the world is expanding, it's growing, the knowledge that we're gaining, there's so much going on. So of course I have great hope for the world and for all of us.
I do too. And thank you for saying that, because you've lived a life. Have you ever have you ever counted the number of countries you've been to?
Quite some time ago. I don't know, there was like around 50, because I've been to Asia. I mean, I had a friend who was working in the Philippines, and so I stopped in Tokyo, and I actually had some friends in Tokyo that I visited, and I was there for a while, learned the tea ceremony. Then I went to the Manila, and my friend was a country director there for UNFPA. And we went to this island, Boracay, where there is no electricity. I don't know. Have you ever heard of it?
I have heard of it. Matter of fact, I have a couple of assistants in the Philippines, and they're trying to get me to go there. Is it a good time?
Oh my God! There's no electricity, and everything is by the fire, by on the beach, and the water, of course, is cold, but it's okay. It'll wake you up. But the one thing that is so so amazing is that you at night you can see the stars, you can see the Milky Way, you can see how it shapes because there is no light to detract it. It is the most amazing, miraculous, most beautiful, awe-inspiring vision to see the Milky Way in front of you. You should go, because it's just, I will never forget that vision.
So I got to ask you, because from where I live, it's a 19-hour flight, and you've flown all over the world, and you've spent a lot of time in airplanes. What do you do to keep yourself occupied? Do you read? What do you do?
Well, of course, I think after the first 12 hours, you just start getting unconscious. Because my husband and I, we had a house in South Africa, in Ovango, south of Durban, and we used to go there two, 3 times a year. And so there was a long flight, from, not from the Congo, from Kinshasa or Sierra Leone, but from New York. We had it for a while, so we would travel that. And, I learned to take like something to sleep for a while. That helps, when you time it all right. But you just know that once you get there, you're going to have a fabulous time. And actually, 2 years ago, I went to Australia with a friend of mine on a cruise, and that was amazing. In New Zealand, so you can do it. Just do it. That's it. Don't think about it. Just get on the plane and just do it.
That's exactly right. That's the only way to do stuff, is to just do it and to let it be.
Yes.
You are delightful, my dear, I have to tell you.
Oh, thank you, Kevin.
You really are. And the name of the book that she's written, by the way, is there a second book coming? But first, 13 Years Lost, an unbelievable story of fleeing communist Poland to traveling the world, serving the United Nations and being blessed by the Pope. And I'm assuming that you've met presidents and prime ministers and had really important people, just wander by.
Yes, yes. And I will say, everyone, especially at that level, is so polite and so kind. What a beautiful, world. I mean, I've met wonderful ambassadors, and even in Sierra Leone, my husband was very close with the president, and he came for his birthday. And it was just a beautiful moments you have, beautiful memories.
Did you ever get a chance to meet good old Ronnie Reagan?
I did see him, but at the UN during the General Assembly, of course, it's all quartered in. The security is very tight, and so unless you have a purpose to be there as a UN staff, you really cannot, be. You can see him maybe from a distance, but you cannot attend.
I understand. Well, in those worlds, and rightfully so, security is very important.
Yes.
Because there at any given time can be many world leaders that are there.
Exactly.
And,
yes.
Especially during the national or the National Assembly. No, it's
the
what do you?
The high level General Assembly, which is when all the presidents come.
Yes.
In September, which is going to start, I think, this week.
Well, it's amazing, and I would love for you to take a moment in time to tell our audience anything that you would like them to know about you, your experiences. I gotta believe there's a second book in you, because you need to talk about the experiences that you've had and how they all kind of lined up point by point by point throughout your entire life. And some people will call you blessed. I call you determined, and that you, for whatever reason, were at the right place at the right time to get all of these things that happen, and you are not afraid to ask.
Thank you. No, I will say I'm so grateful to have, out of difficulty and trauma and so much heartache that happened to me as a child, that I have been so blessed in the end to have an amazing life, to have had the opportunity to write it, to be here with you, to talk about it. So I am so grateful for all the wonderful things that have happened in my life. And I'm so glad that I've been able to share it with you, Kevin. Thank you.
You have been amazing, and you've got great energy, and I can see why everybody that comes into your presence, see, your energy has a lot to do with it. Every with that smile that you have and the energy that you have, you attract people to come into your world and say, I want to get to know her, even if she does have ugly shoes.
I love it. They were Mary Janes. They were made fine Italian leather shoes. They were a little clunky. My husband likes sexy, he liked the really, sexy shoe. Mine were clunky, but that's okay.
Well, I'm sure that he'll let you wear them after you were married and stuff from time to time.
Oh, yes.
So, Christine, thank you so much for being here. Go to our website, which is Christine Sadry, and that's sadry.com.
Also, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, it's all Christine Sadry.
Perfect. And so you're everywhere and you're marketed really quite well. And I want to thank you so much for being here. I've enjoyed this conversation immensely. You're going to have to come back. We're going to have to do this some
Oh,
more.
I'd love to. Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
You have yourself a wonderful day. And are you in New York today?
No. I'm in Florida. This is home.
Oh, it's still 5:30 your time, and it's
Yes.
hot. It's time for a little margarita and for something, or maybe a glass of wine. No, I don't know. Anyway, thank you, Christine, and I've had a great time talking to you.
Same here. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.